With over 20 years of experience in the entertainment industry, she's the founder and CEO of DDN Productions, Inc., which is a full-service music entertainment and production boutique that offers a range of services, including program and content creation, advertising, brand consulting, videography, editing, marketing, and copywriting services. Natasha Reid. Hello folks, welcome to Season 9's Trini Corner series, brought to you by the Trinidadian Consul General of Trinidad and Tobago in New York, Mr. J. Andre Laveau. Ozzy Stewart here, as you know, very grateful that you've tuned into this thank you tour of mine, giving flowers to deserving impactors within the Trinidadian diaspora. So please like, follow, subscribe, share, drop a comment, and support us via our stores page, our donate page, or become a member on our new members page to our after show called Inside the Call. Wait for that. And on this episode, I'm shining light on Natasha Reid, R-E-I-D. So, as you know, I like to do a little bit of a get to know Natasha. Natasha Reid is a Trinidadian-descendant born American entrepreneur. She's an audio engineer and cultural leader based in New York City. With over 20 years of experience in the entertainment industry, she's the founder and CEO of DDN Productions, Inc., which is a full-service music entertainment and production boutique that offers a range of services, including program and content creation, advertising, brand consulting, videography, editing, marketing, and copywriting services. She has a deep love and appreciation for the Trinidadian culture, which she has nurtured throughout her career as a singer and music producer. With a background in audio engineering, she's honed her skills working with top-tier artists like U2 and performing for over 28,000 people at the NYC Marathon. Natasha believes that every person has a story to tell and works to help people tell their stories in the most creative, effective ways possible through her work at DDN Productions. In addition to her work in the entertainment industry, Natasha has also devoted her time and energy to promoting Trinidadian culture and heritage in the diaspora. She created a cultural technology event for the Afro-Caribbean community, particularly in that diaspora, that bridges the Caribbean love of art, music, food, and dance with the functionality of business, technology, and management. She also leads efforts to build and enhance her grandmother's contribution to Caribbean culture and women's rights in a 150-year-old building that celebrates the heritage and culture of Trinidad. Natasha is a mentor, youth empowerment advocate, and public speaker who is passionate about supporting young people through creative development, leadership, and management. She has a deep expertise in concert production, problem solving, media planning, mentorship, sponsorship, and youth development. In 2020, she took on a new role as a full-time caregiver for her parents, which has led her to focus more on the importance of wellness and health. In response to her experience as a caregiver, she created Life With Us, a platform that provides support and resources for others navigating the challenges of caregiving. She's also the creator of the Period Project documentary, which celebrates the beauty and essence of womanhood. Through her work at Delirium Fet TV, Natasha is helping to highlight, acknowledge, and celebrate everything Caribbean. From the famous current rolls, rum-soaked fruit cakes from Allen's Bakery in Brooklyn, to roti, coconut rolls, I'm getting hungry, oxtail, saltfish, and doubles. Her work showcases the essential elements of Trinidadian culture while promoting unity and understanding through culture. Natasha Reid. Let's go. So let's ask, Natasha, what inspired you to create a cultural technology event for the Afro-Caribbean community?
I I want to say it was, I want to say 2015. I was home for Carnival, and
Home being in Trinidad.
home being in Trinidad.
Got it.
Yeah, for Carnival. And a friend of mine who is not Caribbean, who is very much American, was working with another Trinidadian company that was based here in Harlem, actually, and they went to Trinidad to do an event, and we happened to meet up at the same time. And this friend and I, we were talking, and they love tech just like I love tech. And their discovery of Trinidadian culture, their discovery of, soca, the like discovery of calypso and all of that was super interesting for them. The food, everything, just very interested. And just in conversation, it was like, what if there was an event in New York that had the energy of a fete, and you talked about the things that you want to do. We talked about business, but you just had that energy of a fete. And I was like, yeah, that would be super great.
Okay. Could you tell me more about the symbolic value of Carnival in the Trinidadian diaspora?
Whew. I think the value of it is legacy, right? Not just something that you pass down one to the next, but something that you pass and you give, but you share and you educate. Um, the missing with that is we attach value with cost, and cost is not necessarily value, right? Value is something it's tricky. You can't really put a number on it. And I know people may say, well, yes, you could put a number on it. You can't. Yes, in business, there's valuation, right? What I can buy your business for. What does it earn? What does it generate? But value is that thing that you can't necessarily put your finger on, but you know when it's missing. It's that thing that makes, your grandmother's cooking so sweet. And no matter how many times you try to replicate that recipe, I don't care what you do, you can use the same ingredients, but it doesn't taste the same because there's something that each person brings to the table. And Carnival is the culmination of everybody on the island, everybody doing it at the same time, bringing that energy at the same time, in the same place, to have this one thing called a celebration.
As you mentioned, the grandmother. What has been her contribution to the Caribbean culture and women's rights?
Oh, so much. So my grandmother, I'm going to use her name, um, Carmen, right? She has a Spanish name.
My grandmother is also Carmen.
Mm-hmm.
My mother's.
So Carmen Ramage Black Williams grew up in Carriacou, born in Trinidad, grew up in Carriacou. Her mother, I'm going to say that I've never known my great grandmother, but knowing what I know about how women didn't have opportunity, I just believe that my great grandmother had one more responsibility without having that partnership and without having the emotional intelligence to know how to treat your child or how to say, I can't do this, or how to ask for support. Her response was, go live with your father. So she sent my grandmother to Carriacou. And my grandmother, was well received by her father. But her father had another partner, and she was not well received by her. So in the face of it, while he's there, she's treated very well. But he was also a merchant seaman. So when he's not there, she didn't go to school, and he paid for her to go to school. She didn't get the clothes that he left for her. It was given to, the other daughters living in the household. So she had a very rough time. So much so that when she left Carriacou and came back to Trinidad, she knew two things: that she was going to make sure all of her children felt love, no matter what it took. And she was going to keep her family together, no matter what it took. And so much so that her younger brother, was in an orphanage. She went and she got him out and brought him to live with her. Her younger brother, come to find out later, they were doing a documentary about All Stars. He was a flagman for All Stars, right? My aunts and uncles all wound up becoming homeowners here in the U.S., landowners in Trinidad, from a woman who literally had nothing. There was something that she instilled in all of my aunts and uncles in a way that I haven't seen in a lot of families.
How did you develop your skills as an audio engineer? And how has that contributed to your work in the entertainment industry?
That was, again, another friend and I were having conversations about music, and I was very much into hip hop growing up. That was my thing. My parents, of course, couldn't understand it. I was like, no, this, you don't understand. This that thing. And they were like, no, it's not gonna last. I was like, no, this is that thing. And I had a good friend, he's still one of my best friends now. He said, hey, I'm going to this school for audio engineering. And there were several here in New York that I had already started looking at. And he said, you should check it out. And
that was it?
Wow. That was it. And I checked it out. But what made the difference is that this particular school, the school is called Full Sail down in Florida. Mm-hmm. They had a 24-hour class schedule.
What?
That's what I said. It's a 24-hour class schedule, meaning you can go to class anywhere within that 24-hour period. There's a class.
Okay.
So there's a lab, there's a classroom, there's something that's happening in those 24 hours. And what they express is that they're training you on how to be in the entertainment business. There is no 9 to 5. There is no Monday to Friday. There is no holiday. It's really dependent upon, where you are inside of the business. Now, again, this is like the 90s, right? The founder of the school was coming from a movie production background. Mm-hmm. So I said, that sounds really interesting. And, being from, at the time, being a background singer, working in studios, I kind of understood that. Because there were times you get called to be in the studio and it's like 1 a.m. and it's like, okay, chuck down here and I'll get there. There's no, I need to warm up. It's like, get warmed up on your way.
Right.
Because you have a session. Right. So I was interested in like, that's different. Because I wanted to learn. Because at the time I wanted to put out an album. And why I went to audio engineering school, because I wanted to know how to speak to my audio engineer. I wanted to know the language. I wanted to know how to do something and not just say, do that thing like so-and-so. It's like, no, I want you to add a little more on the top when you do the EQ, but I also want you to gate me here because sometimes I get pitchy, like really speaking in that language. And I didn't realize how much of that experience after, went to school, came out, worked with a couple studios, left that, went into teaching. I figured, okay, I'm done. Okay, my time has passed. I'm done. And then later on, I started performing again. And inside of performing, people asking like, well, have you ever worked with this person? And I'm like, no. Have you thought about it? Have you thought about doing something in I was like, but what do you do? It's like, oh, well, I more sing, you know, um, pop or R&B, jazz. Like, well, you ever thought about singing soca? I was like, no, never thought about that. Right. And then I started to listen to what soca artists were doing.
So this, what you're saying is that you went into learning audio engineering to learn the language so that you could put your album together, and then that sort of influenced other things and use
So
that to
many of
influence other people. What inspired you to start DDN?
So what inspired me is like as I'm on this journey
Right.
now, trying to figure out um, how am I getting back into entertainment as a performer? Because I'm like, okay, I'm older now. That means I have to have a different audience, all of this. I was like, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to tour.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be on the road.
You did that.
I did that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be on the road differently,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't want to be on the road performing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That said, I've got to ask you, what was that life like for you in terms of performing? I mean, you did it, and you're at a different level where you're going into DDN, but what was that life like? Where did you travel? You know,
so
was it fun? Or because if you're talking about moving on from not performing on the road, was it a fun thing?
no, not for me. And I know that like some people enjoy it, but I really got early on. I wasn't a performer, even though I could perform. I am an executive. I'm definitely a producer. I'm definitely an executive producer. I love that role. I love putting the ideas and the pieces together and bringing in the talent, looking at how can we make all of this happen. I kind of knew that early on. So, like you mentioned, you two, that was my high school music choir director who put a group of us together. And like, I really bust my behind to get in that group. And, we started performing with them, and we even performed at Madison Square Garden. And I was super excited. And then I looked and like was like, okay, what's next? Like
Another
after,
gig in another country
yeah. And
wasn't
I
appealing.
wouldn't, it wasn't appealing because I
Got
knew I
it.
wouldn't get to see the country because I would be on the gig.
Right.
I would get in the country, but I wouldn't get to see the country. I wouldn't get to really be a part of the culture. I would just be on the gig. Yeah.
So let me ask you something. How was your experience studying at the Berlin School of Creative Leadership?
It was unique.
How did it influence your teaching and your work in concert production and,
Um,
development and all
I would say that it didn't influence me in that work. What it made me recognize was how much I knew.
that? Mm-hmm.
Because I went there thinking that they had something I needed,
Mm-hmm.
only to figure out and find out, like, no, I have something they need. I have something that my classmates needed. And like, I have an experience and a knowing of culture that is something that marketing needs.
What inspired you to start journaling your experiences as a caregiver? And did that was that what led you to create Life with Us?
Yeah. What inspired me was So I'm a daddy's girl. And my father got diagnosed in um, February, you can forget it, February 2019 with progressive supranuclear palsy. And at the time, he was told he has Parkinson's, right? So we went to Trinidad right after his diagnosis and we went for Carnival. And if anybody has seen me and my father for Carnival, he takes the lead and I follow. And one day we were walking around the savannah, you know, as we do in the morning, we got up, we were walking around the savannah and I was leading. And my father was falling behind because now the stiffness, the motion was becoming an issue. And in that time period, of course, now here we are a year later, 2020, COVID. I go to Trinidad by myself. I come back, my father is different. I start to see the rapid decline in my father's mobility. And I'm also getting depressed with that. And I had to figure out something because if I didn't figure out how to share, how to express what was happening, then my father wouldn't have me and my mother wouldn't have me to support them because I would be lost in whatever feelings I have. I'd be upset, you know, but I wouldn't be present and available for them.
Right.
And I've always loved journaling. And then something said, you know, in conversations with, you know, friends and mentors, one of them said, well, why don't you just share your story with other people? Because I'm sure somebody else is dealing with the same thing. And that's what had me start Life with Us.
How did you what created, what was the impetus for the period project documentary? Because that's I'm very intrigued about that one.
So, and this happened while I was in the Berlin school. I recognized that in the programming, they had us create a project, and what I was thinking about was my journey as I'm getting older, more seasoned in life, and realized that there's somebody else out there who's younger than I am and older than I am who've been on this journey or about to start this journey. And there's no one having a conversation about it.
And you're talking the journey of menstruation, monthly menstruation.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the emotional experience that comes with it, just the questions that come with it, you know, what happens before I start, you know, while I'm in it and it's about to end. There are lots of things that are happening, but no one's having those conversations.
I had a couple of stepsisters who step aunts actually, who could not work for 7 days, could not move. They're in bed 7 days out of the month, every month. And my godmother taught me that when it first happened, she was there. And she said, listen, you've got to put yourself in the mindset that this is what's going to happen to you for many, many years. So don't think pain, think this is a matter of fact and move on with it. And I never suffered. Just with that, I never forgot her words. But this project is a very cool project. What's happened with it now? Where is it?
So right now I am in the reboot. I am looking at who I want to interview for it because I want to get everyday women's experiences with it. And, you know, now we're in the phase of just pulling in, you know,
The information. And the people. Cool. So, how has your Trinidadian heritage influenced your work in promoting cultural events within the Trinidadian diaspora?
It's like everything. You know, my father played steel pan. My aunt was one of the first women to play steel pan here in the U.S. She played at Carnegie Hall, actually. You know, my two uncles started Carnival in Miami. Like, It's everywhere. It's always been a part of my life. And
you just told us a little bit more about your journey about yourself, so that's very cool.
Yeah, it's always been a part of my life. It's been every conversation that I've eavesdropped on as I'm, listening to growing up and whatnot. And what I didn't realize how much of a Trinidadian I am.
Hey,
Because you get told if you're born in any place that's not Trinidad, you get told you're not a Trinidadian.
Right.
But I come to realize, even though being Trinidadian is, yes, there's a national status, there is the citizenry of it, but it literally is something that is in your DNA. And that song right there, I'm not bigging it up, but I'm bigging it up. It's true. It very much is something that is within you, and already know that it's there, because I can't walk into a space and someone is talking about something that is, whether it's Trinidadian, it's Tobagonian, and they say something that's incorrect, and I have to stop you. Like, no, you can't do that. No.
So then you're working that through your work and the experiences and okay.
And through my work, with that, if I can expand on that.
Yeah.
Through the work of it, what I bring with me, the way I see Trinidadians interact and engage, and Tobagonians very much so. My experience has been, people work with the people that they know and like, but not from just, oh, that's my friend, or, not my friend. It's more, have we sat down together? Have we shared a drink together? Have we just talked together? Did we exchange something, connect? And if I can connect with you, the more and more I can connect with you, the more I'm likely to do something with you.
The more you're also able to see the value in the connection.
And you see the value.
What role does staying connected to Trinidadian culture and identity play in your work? I know you tapped on it a little bit, but
it literally is it's the thread that connects everything that I do. I want so I'm going to go back a little bit. Growing up in New York, I was known as an African American to the world. In school, I was African American, or at the time, Black. In the street, I'm an African American girl, but at home, I'm a Trinidadian. There was no blending of that, right? There was no sharing of that, because people couldn't understand what Trinidadian is. I had friends who would ask me, "You're fans from Jamaica?" And I'm like, "No." And I'm like, "They're from Trinidad." And I would have to pull out a map,
right,
to show them where that is. And, of course, maps are very biased, so you couldn't really see it. But like, well, it doesn't exist. I'm like, it's there.
Right.
I've been there. I lived there. It's there. Trust me.
Right.
But they couldn't understand that everybody from the Caribbean is not from one place.
Right.
We all come from other places. So now, with the onset of social media, with, other platforms where people can share their content about where they're from, people now have a little bit more of an exposure. So now it's more accepted, it's more welcomed, the new.
And it's not all about Carnival once a year.
Not at all.
Or the pan, and that's all we know.
That's all they know. There's more things like food, exploration, all of that. But not only that, now the newer first and second generation American Trinidadian Americans, they are actually they have an opportunity to say, I'm Trinidadian American, even if they've never been to Trinidad, and they don't have to qualify it or quantify it, or, show I have citizenship to say that I'm this, because it's very much more accepted now. And it wasn't always like that for me growing up, you know.
I still get the questions. Where's that accent from again? Yeah. It's there. It's in that country. Yeah.
Very
What
much so.
challenges have you faced in preserving the Trinidadian cultural identity in the diaspora? Like, you know,
The biggest challenge, I think, is too much wanting to be something other than. And, I hear a lot of people like, oh, well, we have to get with modern times. But sometimes everything modern is not beneficial. You lose something, when you don't have somebody at home that could sit down and show you how to make a good bake, and you have to go to YouTube to do that for me, that's a problem. And I'm not saying I don't value the YouTube thing, but
buljol. Let's say somebody to make some buljol. Whoever doesn't know what buljol is, look it up.
Look it up.
Like
Yes.
soca, look it up.
Yes. Like, I'm hearing people say certain things. It's like, the saltfish. I'm like, no, it's buljol. That's not,
and like, it's just not that. It's different things that go into that.
And then it's a mix. Yes. But you don't know how to do that because you didn't have your grandmother's hands there, your mother's hands, or your father's hands. Like my father was the baker for us. To have that piece there, it's like literally passing down a part of yourself to the next generation. And I think some of that is getting missed because we so much want to be known. We want to be seen, we want to be heard, that we're not figuring out how to be seen and heard without losing a part of who we are. We think sometimes that conforming to other people's ideals of what that looks like.
Losing self, I call that.
Yes.
Losing self. Have you seen Trinidadian cultural traditions intersect with those of other diasporic communities in the regions where they reside?
It happens all the time, and it's going to happen, right? There's nothing, and I want us to really understand there's nothing wrong with seeing Pan in another country, right? There's nothing wrong. Like Japan has a carnival.
Big. Yes.
And it's
Abu
growing.
Dhabi has a
Abu Dhabi, right? They have a carnival. Like there's so many places. Spain, France, Germany. Like,
it's a big
London.
One in France for soca and whatnot as well.
Yeah. It's all over. There's nothing wrong with that. You want your culture to touch other places. Where we kind of lose something is trying to figure out how to lock it down, right? You can be a gatekeeper for it, but gatekeeping doesn't mean that you lock the gate. It means you watch the gate. Who's coming in? Who's going out? What they're taking with them? What they're bringing with them, right? If we really think about it, at some point, yes, Pan started in Trinidad, but it would no longer belong just to Trinidad. And we have to get comfortable with that because the piano started someplace. It is no longer the instrument of that place. The violin started someplace. It's no longer the instrument of that place. The drum, all of these things started someplace. It no longer belongs to the culture that it started with. But people know if they want to go back in the history and figure it out, they can find out where it started. We have to get comfortable with, can we be the originator and have our story be told as the originator and allow it to go out and grow and flourish?
What was the upside of COVID for you? We talk a lot about, you've gone through things with your father and whatnot. Was there an upside of any kind for you during COVID 2020, especially that year?
Absolutely. The upside for me was stepping into who I am. Like I always knew who I was. But you can know who you are and not have to be responsible for it or accountable for it. 2020 made me be accountable for who I am. Made me be accountable for being a person of this legacy and having to be the one to move the needle forward with it. And
when you speak about the legacy, enhance on that.
I mean, inside of, having the traditions of Carnival culture, having the knowledge of what has happened with steel pan players, what has happened with masqueraders, what has happened in just regular everyday stories. So many stories. Like, I cannot tell you how many stories I sat and listened to and didn't really know that the storyteller would not be around to tell it. And that made me realize, wait a minute, I have to start. I know how to document these things. I have to start documenting it. I have to step into that and really capturing it, because at some point, whoever is left behind,
And they're talking about that even now, on live stage, all our guys are getting older, and I appreciate what you're doing. I want to be able to, one of the reasons I wanted to sit with you, because I see your focus and your passion, and it definitely is an impact. And as you grow, it be more of an impact even, right? And I want to be there with you.
I
right?
appreciate it.
So what I want to say to you guys, this is Natasha Reid. Thank you very much for sharing and for your invaluable time with us, Natasha, and for being also on Inside the Call, which is another part that you guys are going to check out on our website, right? Coming members only page. And that's for our donating members, by the way. I'm just going to tell you guys that. My audience, thank you for spending your time with us today. And please like, follow, subscribe, share, drop a comment, support us, support us, support us. Become a member or donate or visit our store for merch. Store for merch. We have a store up. All on the website. We are grateful. Thank you to Cheese, please, and our OTC team. So send your thoughts and comments via our YouTube or IG pages. Care to share. Remember, like I always say, when you're on your beat, stay on the sunny, sunny side of the street. Safely, be health conscious and kind to one another. And don't forget to give thanks for the little and big gifts while striving to live that beautiful life. Now, next, Inside the Call. See you there. Thank you very much.